we're not here to lecture you, we're here to give you some knowledge. And we want you to take that knowledge forward and hopefully take it with you for the rest of your life. And be the voice, be that good passenger as well as a good driver. Okay, be that voice when you see somebody else distracted driving, be that voice and say, hey, cut it out, right? How many of you guys are in the program so far? So, a few in the license program. So, have you guys taken anything on distracted driving yet? A little bit, eh? Okay, well, we're going to go a little bit more in depth today on that. And like I said, we're here to just give you guys that knowledge so that you guys can go forward from here and pass it on to your circles. And by your circles, I mean the people that you love and love you, okay? And that could be moms, dads, aunts, and uncles, brothers, sisters, grandparents, everybody, friends. So take it forward. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Corporal Kevin Adrian, Moose Jaw Police Service.
And Tim Schwartz, I'm with the RCMP. We have a partnership, as you can see up on the board there. There's the RCMP, Moose Jaw Police Service, Fire Department, and EMS. And you can tell that's a group of emergency services. And we are the group that gets called to a situation on a highway where there's an accident, a fatality, and we see what happens at the time of a devastating situation. So the fact that we want to come in a classroom here, and as Kathy said, we're not lecturing, we want to give you information. One of my worst days and Kevin's worst days are to, following an accident, is to have to go and tell a family member that one of their loved ones has died. And that is extremely difficult when you have to try to relay that message to a family member, and then when the cause comes out, it's because of a cell phone. We want to try to prevent that from happening. So really today we really want your attention. We really want some questions from you. We want you to pay attention and move forward in a safe manner where you guys get behind the wheel and are good, safe drivers. We want to make our area of Moose Jaw and wherever else you move to as you get older a safe place.
All right, we're going to just turn off the lights a little bit. Okay, sorry. All right, you start?
How many letters?
5 letters.
Think about what am I doing right now?
Smile. Smile?
Uh-huh.
So easy. Stuff like that.
We'd like to show you this video right off the bat to get your attention. Those words are so true. If you're texting, you're not driving. This is obviously a staged MVC, but one thing that's real about it is that it takes just that long. 1 second to take your focus off the road, and you could end up like this. Even though that this is kind of a Hollywood production type thing, it's real. So can we go to the next one? So today we are going to ask you, is it worth it after you see all this stuff today? We're going to show you a bunch of different distractions and we're going to go through things. At this point you guys are going to say, no, it's not worth it after seeing that crash. But I know that you're going to be tempted out there to pick up that phone or do something distracting. So please pay attention to all of this stuff, okay? So our objective today is to discuss what distracted driving is, to discuss social and legal consequences of distracted driving, to identify ways to avoid distractions while driving. But our number one objective today is, like I said before, is for you guys to take this and pass it on and to make that commitment not to drive distracted, okay? That's our number one goal for today, is for you guys to take this away from this presentation today. Okay? So we're going to watch a quick video on the RCMP put together. It's about the distracted driving. It'll show you all different kinds of distractions, what kind of penalties that could be out there. Some of them are different than what they are here. We're going to go over some of the legal aspects and consequences for Saskatchewan. But first of all, we're just going to go see a quick little video, and we're going to discuss what you guys think is the definition of distracted driving. Okay?
In the blink of an eye, everything can change. Distracted driving can be as dangerous as drunk driving. So, leave the phone alone. Distracted driving includes anything that takes your eyes off the road, hands off the wheel, mind off the task. You may say that it only takes a second or two, but while you were looking at your phone, you drove through a stop sign. While you were searching for a different song, you held up an ambulance rushing to the hospital. While you were programming your GPS, you didn't see the cyclist. While you were checking your newsfeed, you ended up making the traffic news. In 4 out of 5 collisions, the driver looked away 3 seconds prior to the accident. Because you picked up this phone call, someone you care about will be receiving one. Distracted driving can lead to fines and demerit points, increased insurance, license suspension, jail time, injury, death. Here's what you can do. Ignore your phone or pull over safely. Collisions can happen in the blink of an eye. The impact is forever.
So based on the video, guys, can anybody tell me what the definition for distracted driving is?
Anything that takes your eyes off the road.
Very good, and because you're my absolute first one. There you go. Good job. Anything that takes your focus off the road. Can you go to the next one? So distracted driving is a form of impaired driving as a driver's judgment is compromised when they are not fully focused on the road. So it is a form of impairment. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. Next. So we handed out some sheets we're going to go over right away, but I'd like to point out these are 2016 stats for Saskatchewan, SGI stats. And they don't have the 2017 out yet, but in 2016, 8,300 collisions occurred and contributing to the deaths of 42 people and more than 1,200 injuries in Saskatchewan. Last month, I was watching a global news feed for BC, and last month in Vancouver City alone, not the rest of the province, they gave out 2,000 tickets for distracted driving, just in the city. Do you think that's a problem? I don't think so, right? I know we don't have as many here in Moose Jaw probably, obviously, because our population is small. But per capita, I'm sure we're just as bad or worse. So this is definitely becoming a problem. In October last year, SGI and the police forces across the province did a spotlight on distracted driving. And I think they gave out, I don't have my sheet here, I think it was 416 tickets. And 391 of those were contributing to cell phone use. And then, in January 2018, they did another spotlight. This was on drunk driving. So they weren't even really out there looking for the distracted drivers. But they gave away 500 tickets. And over 400 and some of those were contributed to the cell phone use. So is the problem getting worse? It is. We're seeing this all the time. Okay, so you guys want to go over that
So everybody has in front of them a sheet that talks about either it's a myth or a fact. And it's important for us to get you involved as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask one of you to read out the question, and then I'm just going to get somebody to answer it. So we're going to start at the front here. Can you read out question number 1, please?
Drivers using handheld devices are 4 times more likely to get into a collision serious enough to cause injury over drivers who are focused on the road.
Okay, and behind, what do you think? Is that a myth or a fact?
I'm going to say I think it's a fact.
You're exactly right. It is a fact. Yeah. So can I get you to read number 2, please?
In some provinces, a person can be fined up to $2,000 for distracted driving. They can also have their license suspended, be sentenced to driver rehab, or be charged with dangerous driving and face possible jail time.
So right across, is that a truth or a fact? Or myth or a fact, I should say?
Me?
Sorry, just right here. Pardon me? You don't know? What do you think? Did you understand the question? So what she's saying is that based on people can be fined up to $2,000 for distracted driving. They could also have their license suspended, be sentenced to driver rehab, or be charged with dangerous driving and possibly face jail time. So do you think that's a myth or a fact? A fact. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, question number 3. Can I get you to read question number 3, please?
In 3 seconds, driving 60 kilometers per hour, you travel 50 meters. That's half the length of a football field.
And do you think that's a myth or a fact?
Myth.
It's a fact. Okay. So, and you know what, that can be a little confusing, right? Because when we think of 60 kilometers per hour and I'm sure there's a football field out at Peacock. Is there one out here that you guys use? Yeah. So when you take a look at that, you know, half the football field, when you're driving 60 kilometers an hour, in 3 seconds, that's how far you're going to travel. So when you think of it, that's pretty quick, right? And then what we want to do is take that and put that into multiply by 2, because then if you're driving highway speed, you then would be traveling, you know, at 100 kilometers an hour, and you'd go past the football field in a very quick period of time. You know, so the idea here is that if you're a passenger in a vehicle sometime and you're driving or you're sitting there and you see something on the road as an object, close your eyes and count 1, 2, 3, and you'll see how fast you either approach that object or how quickly you've gone past it. So the idea here is just to make you realize that in 3 seconds you travel a really quick period of time in a short distance. Number 4. Can I get you right there, please, read number 4?
Reading maps or other material while driving is considered a driver distraction.
And right beside, what do you think? Is that a truth or a myth or a fact?
Fact.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. So as we talked about here, taking your hands off the wheel, not paying attention is going to be considered distracted driving. So I ask you to read number 5, please.
If you're stopped at a red light, it's okay to check your text messages.
And is that a myth or a fact?
Myth.
A myth, exactly. Just want to make it very clear here. One of the things that we see here in Moose Jaw are people at red lights sitting there, they're looking at their lap. We're calling that crotch watchers. So everybody is focused on something down on their lap. We all know, since cell phones have come out, people figure they're sneaky, right? If I put my head down and I don't have my cell phone up here, people would be better off, if they want to break the law, to be obvious. But they put their head down and they're down here looking at their cell phone. As an example, last year when we first made the presentation, we went over to Vanier, and one of the colleagues for the RCMP was on his way over there. He was stopped at a red light, and right beside happened to be a young lady on her cell phone. Somehow somebody behind had honked the horn for whatever reason. She realized, or she felt that, okay, the light must be green. She then put her foot on the accelerator, drove through a red light, and just about got hit. Actually, I think there was a person walking across the street. So you can see how you'll get startled when you're not paying attention. So the proper way of looking at your phone when it's legal for you is not at a red light, not in a driveway through let's say McDonald's or Burger King or Tim Hortons, but when you officially pull over on the side of the road, put your vehicle in park, you then legally can look at your phone, make that phone call, or use your phone for texting. So are we all clear on that? Just so you understand.
Would even add somewhere safe. Sometimes you see people even panic and will stop right in the middle of the road, park, and they're doing their thing. So make sure it's somewhere safe where you can get off.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, number 6 here, I'll just read it. Even when drivers use a hand-free phone, they are less aware of the traffic around them. They tend to react more slowly to a critical event, or worse, they may not detect the danger at all. Would that be, in the back, a fact or a myth? Just fact. Very good. Number 7. Can you read number 7, please?
Drivers talking on cell phones are in many cases just as impaired as drunk drivers.
And what do you think? Would that be a myth or a fact?
Fact.
Fact, exactly. This morning here, we saw actually up there, impaired driving is distracted driving, where you're not paying attention. Number 8. Can I get you to read number 8, please?
Experienced drivers are no better at handling cell phone distractions than novice drivers.
So, what do you think? Would that be a myth or a fact?
Fact.
That's correct, yeah. So the thing here is that just because I may have 35 years of driving experience, that doesn't make me safer to be there using my cell phone. And to tell you the truth, I'm probably worse at manipulating my cell phone than probably one of you. We all know that you guys can probably multitask very well with your cell phone going here, and you know exactly what message you're sending and that type of stuff. Whereas me, it's old school, and I would be terrible at it. And really the law is there to prevent me or a new driver from using your cell phone in that capacity. Number 9. Can I get you to read number 9, please? Yes.
It is okay to use your cell phone while driving as long as it does not take your focus off the road.
And can we all say that same answer at the same time? Is that a myth or a fact?
Yes.
Myth. Yeah, very good. And number 10, driver distraction is a factor in 8 out of 10, about 4 million car crashes in North America each year. What do you think that is? Would that be a myth or a fact?
Fact.
Very good. And we're also saying too that, you know what, in some ways that number is even low. So it is true a fact, but the numbers are getting higher, as Kathy had mentioned.
We put this together 2 years ago, so you can imagine how high the numbers are now. Like, it's just crazy how much it's gone up. All right, next one.
Okay, the following applies to both the previous.
Sorry.
Okay. Applies to both the previous and the new cell phone law. All drivers are prohibited from using handheld cell phones. Experienced drivers can use hands-free devices. We talked about this. That's the one touch Tim was talking about. New drivers can't. Nothing. Can't touch it at all. If the cell phone is mounted on the dash clip of the visor or in its cradle, it's considered hands-free, and it's okay for an experienced driver to use it, provided they can access the phone with one touch or voice commands. Okay. Penalties. First offense, $280 and 4 demerit points. Second 2 or more convictions within a 12-month period for manipulating the device while driving will result in a 7-day vehicle impoundment regardless of who the vehicle owner is. 7-day vehicle impoundment regardless of who the vehicle owner is. So when you're out there driving mom and dad's Beamer or Lexus or Toyota or whatever it is, that vehicle can get impounded for 7 days regardless. So in my experience, mom and dad don't like that a lot.
Well, they also have to pay for a tow truck
They
to
gotta
get
pay.
it to the compound. And that vehicle is on a vacation for 7 days that they have to pay for too. So every day that it's there, storage fees are applied to that vehicle. So not only do they not have their vehicle for 7 days, but they also have to pay for it.
Yes.
What would be the average price for the storage and the towing? Do you guys have an idea?
My thoughts are it's probably minimum $100 for the tow. And then in a lot of cases it could be $20 a day for storage. You know, so you're looking at not only a $280 fine, but another probably close to $280 for the tow and the storage. And also just want you to know too that when you think, well, okay, well maybe you got a ticket here in Moose Jaw, but you're traveling to Humboldt. So we have RCMP out there, or you're traveling out of town here and I happen to stop you. We have access to an SGI database in all our police vehicles. So if we issue a ticket for somebody distracted driving, we will do a history check. And we find out in the last 4 months, you ended up getting a ticket in Moose Jaw. That's how we know. We're not gonna come to you and say, have you ever had another ticket? We might ask you just to see how honest you are, and you might say, no, I haven't. We do a check on our database and we find out that, and then that's how we know. Then you're probably gonna get SGI sending you a letter and saying that we suspended your license, or you're gonna be required to take some sort of driver education program again.
Last point, if you're in the graduated driver's license program, you may have to start over no matter where you are in the program. Somebody over there asked about age, and that's kind of the answer to that one. It depends. It could take you a long time to be an experienced driver. You could get it, as soon as you can. It really depends.
You guys have any questions on that at all? It's pretty straightforward.
The other thing we're looking at here now is to get you guys to think about, and we all know we're talking cell phones, right? That's distracted driving. But what are some other things outside of a cell phone that can constitute distracted driving? Yes?
People talking to you in the backseat and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure it can be, yeah. You know what, maybe poking you, bugging you.
Yeah.
Probably having a conversation is okay, but if you have somebody joking around in the back, one example that I find is that when my kids were younger, them not listening or being quiet distracted me as a driver, right? Because they're hollering and screaming. Me doing one of these kind of, stop it is not a good thing. So yeah, pull your vehicle over and, but very good point. And as teenagers, we might be having a fun day and we might be thinking we're joking around, but keep in mind that if you're being told by the driver, well, cut it out, time out, it's affecting me, or pull over and say, hey, we need to have a plan here to move forward.
Remember I said about being good passengers? Passengers are just as, sometimes as important as the drivers, because you have to be a good passenger. You can't be distracting them, or else, like as you saw the first one, I mean, it was crazy. They were talking and goofing off and laughing, and then she picked up her phone. I mean, it was a combination of everything, but be a good passenger.
Anything else? What other things out there? Yes?
Like if you're like playing with the radio stations a lot?
Yeah, the radio stations, maybe say GPS if you're looking at trying to put in coordinates. Definitely, anything that's taking your eyes off the road is another distraction.
We always bring this up. What is a pilot's job?
For an airplane.
For an airplane, what does a pilot do? Flies the plane. What's a co-pilot do? Might do lots of things, right? Could be checking the gauges, could be talking to the tower. His job or her job is to assist the pilot, what they're doing, so that they don't have to focus on other things. So that's right. I mean, somebody, if you're playing with your music and you're not supposed to be, you can get your passenger to do it, right? If you have somebody in there, have your co-pilot do it, or your GPS. Get them to read the map. Say, oh, you're coming up to such and such a street. That's a good job for your passenger.
What else do you think? Yes? Yeah, both you first and then right behind you.
Eating.
Pardon me, eating.
Oh,
Yeah,
very
you
good.
see that lots of
Yeah.
times, right? You go through a drive-through and it's 30, you don't have time for 1 minute, because really to eat a burger and probably some fries and a drink, a couple minutes, and you're back on the road, right? And a lot of times people are in a rush, and when we're in a rush, that's when things happen. So
How many of you guys have ever been in a vehicle? No, and I have. I've been, like, quite a few years ago. But I was in a vehicle with a person. They were driving, and they had food in this hand, they had a drink in this hand, and they were driving with their knee. Have you ever seen that before? Sadly, you probably have, right? There's always a few in my class that say, yeah, I saw that too. Was that distracted? Driving? Yeah.
how do you react? You can't, right? Other than throwing your food out and putting your hands on the wheel.
Exactly.
Right?
I hate for that burger to be the last meal for that person, right? Like, really.
What happens when you drop something? Automatic
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah,
Right.
that's your automatic reaction is if you drop something, you're going to try and grab it. Just like people smoking, same thing. If they drop their cigarette too, I mean, the first thing they do is try to grab for it. So to me, that's a distraction as well.
Yes. Do you have another question? Another example?
I heard that I feel like if we were drinking the coffee in the vehicle, and then you want to pour it up, you can't see the road, is that distracting?
In Saskatchewan, we don't have that yet, but I know Alberta
Alberta does.
is moving forward, and that's probably going to be the lead, right? So anything that, and that's the whole idea, is that we're asking drivers to pull over, do what you need to do. If that's going to be drinking a coffee, as simple as it may sound, but the idea is that we just need people to be responsible, right? So yeah, it's not yet, but the whole idea would be is to have your coffee before you go, or some people may say SGI is pushing it too far. We're saying we want our highways to be safe, right? And we don't want a hot coffee or a burger to end somebody's life,
I
right?
don't think it's far enough yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that the penalties are enough yet, because people are still doing it. And you know, it's not you kids that are guilty of it all the time either. I mean, it's everybody. It's all ages. And it's just getting worse and worse, right? I know that they're getting it in legislation right now in Parliament, and they're trying to make it nationwide. So all the penalties, all the consequences are going to be hopefully nationwide. So it doesn't matter which province you go to, it'll be all the same things.
We'll just take a couple more. Yes, what did you have?
Could things being hung from your rearview mirror be a distraction?
They definitely can, for sure. And because one of the things that we talk about is the use of your mirrors and visibility of your complete front window, right? Because we all know that having things hanging from your rear view mirror is going to, it's going to prevent you from seeing maybe a passenger, a pedestrian walking on the front, that type of thing. So having a clear visibility is good. One thing that I always say, we talk about a lot of times loud music or maybe loud, we all like to have loud music.
How many of you guys like listening to loud music in the car? I do. I'm guilty of it, especially out in the highway if I'm on my own. I like to have the loud music up and crank up the tunes and sing along just to keep myself awake and focused, right? There again, you use your mirrors, right?
Exactly, and one of the things that we find with emergency vehicles, that when we're on our way to whatever this call may be, I'll have my lights and sirens on, ambulance, fire will be doing the same, and there'll be 3 cars maybe in front. The first guy or the first car in front will pull over, maybe the person in behind will pull over, so the person in the middle goes, oh, these guys are being friendly, they're going to let me pass. They're not paying attention at all, they're not looking in their mirrors, and it's very frustrating for us because we're on our way to an emergency, and they may have their music going, may obviously not hearing our sirens, but one thing for sure, they're not using their mirrors. Because as you're driving, you've got your rear view mirror, you look back, and have you guys gone through your driver training?
There's only 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a question on your exam, or it is reviewed. How often while you're driving are you supposed to be looking through your mirrors? You remember?
I could say like almost 5 minutes or something.
No, I think 5
5
seconds.
seconds.
So as you're driving, because really it's just your eyes are moving, right? It's not it's just being aware of what you're doing. So as you're driving, you just need to be looking in your mirrors, being aware of your environment, right? So one last one I want to take.
I want a real hard one,
He's
against the
got
card here. What do you think, out of the box here, what do you take with you that can be a big distraction?
Ha! There she goes. Hey!
Vital.
Well, awesome. How many of you guys have seen that? And it's usually, I have to say, older people that do that.
Yeah.
I saw a guy just the other day, he was probably about 65 years old, an older gentleman. He had a medium-sized dog on his lap. The window was down a bit because it was a beautiful day. The dog's nose was out the window. So what would happen if that dog sees another dog or a squirrel? Like, he'd be going crazy, probably barking and stuff like that. Also, I mean, seriously, there wasn't enough room for that dog on this man's lap because he was a little heavier and stuff. And sometimes I can't tell if it's the dog or the driver that's driving because it's just like right there. Is that a distraction? Yeah, absolutely it is. They actually have seatbelts out, don't they? now?
They do.
Yeah.
Because really, I think if you're not being in a couple ways, not being responsible as a driver for yourself and maybe your passengers or other people out there, but even your dog, at 60 kilometers an hour, if you have to hit your brakes, that animal of yours is going to probably end up, damaging itself, injuring itself is probably the better term, or injuring you, or potentially dying, right? Because it's a free object that's with impact. We all know if we're not secure when we apply the brakes, we're going to be going forward and smashing into the windshield or the back of the seat. That's what's going to happen to the animal. So
There's
we're
one
encouraging.
more thing I wanna get out there.
Possibly, it could be both guys, girls in different capacities. Let's say you're running late in the morning and
Yeah, give him a
you-
hint, give him a hint.
Yeah, maybe as a police officer, I need to make sure that I'm clean
What do
from
you
any
think?
whiskers. So what would I be
Do your
doing?
hair and makeup.
Exactly.
Very good.
Yeah.
And one of our Moose Jaw Police Service members actually pulled a guy over one morning. And, because he was driving erratically, right? He was not paying attention, he was terrible. So he pulls him over and the police officer says to him, do you know why I pulled you over today? And he says, well, maybe I was driving distracted. He says, uh-huh, and he was shaving. So that, shaving, yeah, it was like this.
It gets worse.
It gets worse. Then he has the audacity to admit that he does this every day. Because he lives in Moose Jaw, drives to Regina to work, and he doesn't allow himself time in the morning to groom himself and shave and whatever. That's his time to shave is in the vehicle. So did he get a ticket? Yes, he did. So it's not all the ladies putting on the lipstick and doing their hair and doing all that kind of stuff. Guys are just guilty of it too.
So the ticket around that obviously wouldn't be cell phone because
No.
that's what that was, but it's drive without due care and attention. So it's just another section of the Traffic Safety Act that holds drivers accountable to what they're supposed to do. So very good. You guys really get the picture of what distracted driving is. It's a lot of things. Our big message here definitely is the cell phone, but it encompasses a number of other factors.
There's so many people that are addicted to their cell phones that they just cannot shut them off and put them away. There was one guy that was in an NBC, actually rear-ended somebody because he was texting. And he thought, oh, okay, so I guess I kind of have a problem with this, so I'm going to put my phone in the back seat so that I don't be tempted to grab it and put it in my hand and use it, right? Well, it rang, and smack dab, he was in his next NBC, rear-ended somebody else because he was reaching back for his phone because he couldn't leave it alone. So then he realized afterwards that, you know what, I gotta do something about this because this is a problem. Obviously, I mean, he's wrecked 2 cars. He's been, wrecked, well, 4 cars, I guess, because he hit 2 vehicles. He drives with his cell phone in the trunk now because he doesn't trust himself. He knows that he will pick it up if it's in the car, and he can't force himself to shut it off. There are people out there like that. It's hard to believe, but there are.
Who has a cell phone here? Who can honestly not go to grab it when it rings or buzzes? A couple think you can. It's just a natural reaction, right? It'll happen so fast, you're so used to muscle memory of getting that phone, the time it takes to turn, and you go, oh, I shouldn't be answering that.
A lot of discipline. And that's
Yeah,
what
it
we're really
is.
trying to
It
stress.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on that, guys? Okay. Next one. So our last activity is always our hardest one, and all of us standing here have done a lot of presentations. We've seen this video countless times, but we never walk away from watching it being unaffected. We're always affected by this video. It's a true story. It's the actual family and friends and doctor and teacher all in the video. They're trying to promote distracted driving awareness because their son Josh paid the ultimate consequence of distracted driving. So you guys will get to see what it's like for their family and how hard it is for them, and we'll discuss it afterwards. It's a Canadian family from London, Ontario. Right?
And I went into the swim mechanical box. And that's been hard. Really hard.
I know this sounds a little hokey, but I want you to shut your eyes for just a few seconds, and I want you to think of all the people that you love and love you. Your mom, dad, grandmas, brothers, sisters. I want you to think about them and how they would be affected if you were Josh. The statement that impacts me the most in this video is the last one with the dad, when he says, "He went to the hospital with his son and he came out with a box." As a mom, I just can't imagine that. Every time I see this and I see that dad up there, I just cringe. I keep thinking, thank God it hasn't happened to me yet. I was one of those friends. When I was 16 in high school, two of my friends decided to drink and drive. And I'll give you a little outline of how bad the crash was, so you know how bad the shape my friends were in. Crash was so bad, they were going so fast around the corner that they actually took air and they hit a power pole, and that power pole got broken in half. The vehicle was actually in 3 pieces. So you can imagine my friends. They both lost their lives. Josh's parents were so courageous in putting this video together, and like she said, his mom said that, you know, if she could help one person and save one life, all of it's worth it. Henry's parents in the day, they didn't have these capabilities. They didn't have the videotaping and they didn't have all that stuff. So how they were courageous to show us kids was at Henry's service, they put his coffin up on a pedestal and they left the casket open. So all through the service, we had to look what was left of our friend. Did I ever drink and drive? No. Did it impact me for life? Yes. Was it one of the worst possible experiences in my life? Yeah. I can shut my eyes and it brings it all back to me. This is why we're here today, guys. We want to make sure that you guys don't end up as a stat. At one of my other high schools that we did just last week, it was the worst probably presentation that we'd ever gone through. I mean, it wasn't a gym. It was large class. This was Friday afternoon, last class, so you can imagine how crazy everybody was. But it sticks out in my mind that up in the bleachers there was 4 young ladies, and they didn't pay attention to any of this. They didn't listen to the video. They laughed. They talked. They didn't pay any attention. And at first I was a little ticked off, but then I got sad because I started looking at them and I was thinking, all of them, 1, 2, 3 of them, could end up as one of the stats that I was talking about earlier. Because they didn't pay attention, they didn't care. So we've given you the knowledge today. It's up to you what you do with that. If you take it forward for the rest of your life, I'm hoping you do for the rest of your life. I hope that you're going to be that voice of conscience for the people that you're driving with. And if they're forcing around or doing something that they shouldn't be while they're driving, be that voice. Tell them to smarten up, because you don't want to die because they're being idiot, right? How many of you guys would get into a vehicle with somebody that was drinking and driving? Nobody. Nobody would get into that vehicle. If that person was drunk and they were driving and you would get in as a passenger, there's no way you would, right? You get that. You understand that. Well, we're saying this is just as bad and getting worse. So take this back to your circles. Tell everybody, be that voice. That's all I have to say. And thank you guys. You guys were awesome today. You were good listeners. Do you guys want to add anything to this, Tim, Kevin?
So again, like Kathy said, it's I always look at that when you go for your driver's license, you're there, you're paying attention, you're focused, you're doing the best you can because you want your driver's license. And I always say that having a driver's license is a privilege, not a right. Because when you do things like distracted driving, impaired driving, you get that right pulled away. But when you follow the rules of the road, you are responsible, you are contributing to road safety, and you're making it safe for yourself, for your passengers, and other people on the road because you're watching. So I also look at today for you guys is that every class you go to, it's a good class to learn, take forward, it builds on another thing in that specific class you're in. It's really what we want here is for you to take this, embrace it, remember it, be responsible, remind your friends, and be safe out there. So thank you for listening and taking it forward.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.